On MCrider, I like to focus on what riders can do to take control of their own safety on a motorcycle. But let's be honest, there are some things that drivers can do to avoid crashes with motorcyclists as well. So this week on MCrider, let's talk about some of the things that we as motorcyclists would like car drivers to be aware of to avoid crashes, and some things that riders can do if the driver fails to follow any of this advice. So one thing I would like to change about some car drivers is their general attitude towards motorcyclists. You know, some drivers have had a bad experience with a rider on the road, and they attribute that experience to every rider they see on the road. I had a coworker who expressed this sentiment to me in no uncertain terms one day in a meeting, and I'll tell you that story in a minute. But before we get into that, we have a sponsor for this week's video, and I want to tell you a little bit about them. You know, we focus on motorcycle road skills and road strategy to keep you safe on a motorcycle. But what if you find yourself in a crash with another vehicle in spite of your best efforts? You know, sometimes all the strategy and training in the world cannot separate you from bad drivers on the road. If you ride a motorcycle and you're involved in a crash, you should know how to protect your rights. That's where it really helps to have a law firm like Morgan & Morgan on your side. When you're seriously hurt on a motorcycle, you could be awarded millions of dollars for your injuries. You know, just recently, Morgan & Morgan saw verdicts of $17.5 million in California, $5 million in Florida, another $4 million in California, and $2.2 million in Kentucky. You know, they're not afraid to go to court to represent you and to get the biggest claim for your injuries. It only takes a few minutes to start the claim, and there's absolutely no fee unless you win. You can even start your claim with the largest injury law firm in just 8 clicks. It's just that easy. You can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/MCrider. That's www.forthepeople.com/MCrider, or by dialing pound law, that's pound 529 on your cell phone. So I used to ride a Ninja 650R when I commuted back and forth to work for one of the major airlines. To the informed motorcycle enthusiast, the Ninja 650R is really not a sport bike. It's more of a standard bike than a true sports bike. But to the general public, it's a crotch rocket like many other riders that they've seen cutting through traffic at a high rate of speed. So one day the conversation came up in a meeting. There was about 15 of us in there, that I rode a sports bike to and from work, and the reaction I got from one of my coworkers was a little bit shocking. She looked at me with a scowl on her face and said, "I hate you guys. Some of you deserve whatever happens to you on the road." And I always had a good working relationship with this lady, but because she found out I rode a red motorcycle with plastic fairings to work, I was instantly the enemy. So I kind of put my hands up in the air with a shocked look on my face, wondering where that came from, when one of my coworkers, who I often talk frequently with about riding, explained to her that I wasn't like that and that I took mine and other safety on the road seriously. He talked about some of the training that I went to and that I was involved in, and this was before I was actually even a rider coach. She calmed down some, but she was still agitated, and by the mere relationship between me and motorcycles, she was agitated at me. So just like every person who drives a truck is not a farmer, or every person who wears a Western hat is not a cowboy, every rider who rides a sport bike is not putting their life or the lives of others at risk out on the highway. You know, that goes for the stereotypes associated with riders of Harleys, sport bikes, touring bikes, or any other style of motorcycle. In the end, we're husbands, we're wives, we're fathers, we're mothers, we have siblings, we have family who care about us, and we want to get home to them just like you do. We just happen to enjoy a commute on 2 wheels instead of 4. And we care about our safety and your safety on the road. If you're a driver and you've got this attitude towards motorcyclists, I want to encourage you to check that attitude, because the general attitude you have towards riders is not true of the vast majority of riders that I personally know. It is true that some riders give a bad name to other riders, but it's equally true that some drivers give a bad name to other drivers. Just because you own a smartphone and a car, I do not automatically assume that you're reading Facebook on your commute home from work and not paying attention to the traffic around you. And just because I ride a motorcycle to work, you should not assume that I'm cutting through traffic at 100 miles per hour. So whether on a motorcycle or driving in a car, there is room for some grace with each other. And here's something else that drivers fail to understand about motorcycles. A safe rider will safely adjust their lane position within their lane frequently and even change lanes frequently if need be. Many drivers see this rider adjusting within their lane and they interpret that as aggression on the part of the rider. What's likely happening is the rider's trying to create time and space on the road, or they're trying to get in position so that they can see better or further up the road. In many cases, it has nothing to do with going faster than you and has everything to do with putting space between you and me on the road so that we've both got more time to adjust and react if the road conditions change. Motorcyclists will sometimes ride in the extreme left or right of their lane in order to see further up the road, and this is not an invitation for you to share the lane with the rider. Every vehicle on the road is entitled to their own lane and their own space within that lane, and riders especially need that extra space to create time and space and visibility with the traffic around them, and we often move around within our lane to help make that happen. You know, in states that allow lane splitting or filtering, there are laws in place that should keep a rider performing this in a safe manner. But it's the rider's choice to split the lane, not the driver's. You know, lane splitting is a controversial topic, and drivers and riders alike have strong opinions on the subject. In general, I'm not opposed to the practice of lane splitting when done safely and within the law. So a rider who's cutting through traffic at a high rate of speed, I'd say anything above 25 miles an hour, is not lane splitting in a legal sense. They're a danger to themselves and others on the road. So when I talk about lane splitting, this is not what I'm talking about. In states that do not have specific laws for lane splitting, it shouldn't be done by the rider for a couple of reasons. One, it's not legal, and two, because it's not legal, cars on the road are not expecting it, and when you do so, you're contributing to the negative stereotypes about motorcycles that we're trying to overcome in this video. I also wish car drivers would be more conscious of riders on the road. Take more time to look, not only because we're harder to see, but also because of that small profile of the motorcycle, it's harder to judge our approach speed to an intersection. So look twice and take time for your brain to process the distance and the approach speed of the motorcycle every time you see one on the road. For many drivers, I'd like you to spend more time focused on the road and less time focused on your cell phone. The 3 seconds you spend looking at your cell phone could be the 3 seconds needed to get a member of your community home safely with their family and friends. Check your blind spots before changing lanes. You know, motorcycles are small and they're harder to see, and they can easily slip in those blind spots. Riders, this is an area where we can help by staying out of blind spots when possible. In order to pass a vehicle, we do have to ride through a blind spot, but we should never linger in that blind spot or we're bringing more trouble upon ourselves. We also need to be aware of blind spots when traveling to and through intersections as riders. We want cars watching out for us, but we need to be proactive and predict bad actors on the road and have a plan in place to deal with them. In the end, driving and riding is a shared responsibility, and we rely on each other to get where we're going safely. But I do want riders to understand this. Fear of death and serious injury is a big motivator for riding safely. When it comes to collisions with cars, the motorcyclist is always pulling the short straw. So it's our responsibility to control everything within our power to increase the odds of riding safely. That includes using a good road strategy and developing road skills in training and practice to avoid crashes. I've got a book that can help with that. Go to mcrider.com/FGbook for more details. And if you're a rider and you want more drivers to understand this, share this video with others to help spread the word. It really may help avoid a fellow rider from a crash. Till next week, guys, it's Kevin with MC Rider, and I'll see you on the road. There's a whole lot more to MC Rider than just the weekly videos. Go to mcrider.com/member. You'll get instant access to the forums and the field guide. You get ad-free MC Rider videos and a whole lot more. Go to mcrider.com/member for all the details.